Thank you, Bruce and Jill. I want to first put something in the chat for those of you who are maybe not so familiar with the teachings of the Buddha. And I will be speaking today from the premise of the Four Jewels. Excuse me, I'm a little emotional right now. The Four Noble Truths. But I want to first acknowledge a few people who have shown themselves tonight and how much it's touching me and it's incredible. And I want to thank you. Roman, thank you. A lot of times we don't get to see the fruits of the seeds that we plant and the work that we do. You showing tonight is incredible. And I want to acknowledge that and appreciate that. David, I gave you my number last week. If you ever need me, give me a call. And I want you to repeat that again this week. Bobby, who would have thought, this earlier today, we were talking about your situation and you would be here and making my situation all the more joyful. Paul, many of you don't understand how incredible it is to be in a cell with another human being and just have to endure the hardships of incarceration. But Paul was there, not just a classmate, somebody who I went through training with, but somebody who we both had to experience some of the hardships of life in the same cell as cellies. And I'm so grateful that he is here today with me outside of this institution. Tammy, 2014, my mother passed away, and a year later, I met this incredible woman from Australia in a program, AVP. And I didn't know I was making a lifelong friend. I don't know what time it is in Melbourne, but I know that whenever I need to talk to her, whenever there's an opportunity, no matter what the time, she's there for me. And I so appreciate her being here today. So I just want to acknowledge that before I started. And thank you all. What I put in the chat comes from the sacred teachings of the Buddha. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path explained. What I'll be talking about tonight is the second truth. The truth of the cause of suffering. And I'm going to read a little something before I get to what I want to discuss tonight. It states, the truth of the cause of suffering states that we suffer because we desire. And I'll repeat that. We suffer because we desire. Desire is a main reason for suffering. Desiring, be it a good thing or a bad thing, can cause us discomfort. Even life needs cause us suffering. Desire and needing food causes hunger. Desiring shelter and not having it causes homelessness. Even wanting to live causes us to suffer. Humans' greatest desire is life itself. To be able to stay alive in an organic body that is doomed to wither and die eventually, we fear death because we desire life. And this fear of death, a lot of the times, brings us suffering. You may see desire in many forms. The desire for money. We work too hard because we think that if we have money, we will be more comfortable. We desire love. We feel depressed and lonely without it. We desire acceptance. We desire material things. We desire power. We desire many things, and thus we suffer. I titled this Dharma talk tonight, What I Desired, and where I still create suffering in my life in desiring what I want. This may seem unrealistic to somebody who's familiar with the Dharma and the Four Noble Truths, but yet still the human condition puts me in this position to desire. As a young adult, I desired to get away from my father's home and a lot of the physical, emotional abuse I experienced in that environment. I desired a life without financial struggles and a lack of material wealth. I believed that I was a man equal to every other man, and I desired to be free and treated fairly. In this suffering of desire, and in dealing with that suffering, I desired to do something to eliminate the suffering that I was experiencing and desiring all those things. So I committed crimes. Robbery, which led to someone being murdered. In that, I violated 3 precepts and caused suffering. Not solely to myself, but also to the victim, her family, my family, society, others triggered by the traumatic episodes in their lives revisited now because of what I did. The first responders who had to appear at a crime scene because of my desires. As well, everyone knows, I was arrested. I was charged, tried, convicted, sentenced, and sent to prison. All outcomes from my desire for what I did not have but wanted. And now I had what I did not want or desire, and I wanted to be rid of that. Many of you know my beautiful wife Jody's condition. For those who don't, she has lived for 40 years with type 1 diabetes. I see her, witness her constant battle with her illness and her desire to have a life without diabetes. Yet, our desire to be married, our desire to love each other unconditionally, our actual paths crossing, and our meetings come from the fact that I went to prison and Jody had type 1 diabetes. You see, we can desire or not desire all sorts of outcomes and conditions in life. But in living this life, we will experience hardship, challenges, difficulties, tragedies, and suffering. How we embrace the condition in which we are in, how we accept that this is not being done to me, but accept that this is what it is. No judgments, no definitions, no labels, like this is good or this is bad. The more we can lean into imprisonment or see it as a lesson that in this life needed to be learned, or diabetes as a magnet that brings people together in love, support, and understanding where no other condition may have had that ability. When we see ourselves as bodhisattvas, guides, conduits on the path of enlightenment, we can come to embrace our purpose in being in this human condition and suffering through this condition of life. I still desire to get away. Not from the abusive nature of my father, nor the memory of that time. I love my father today more than he ever knew a son could love a father. I've learned the reality that he was the father he was conditioned to be, and most certainly was never given the tools to be the father he would have preferred to be. No, I desire to get away from the vitriol of our current public discourse, to get away from this notion that to be great as a nation, we need to go back to a time that maybe wasn't so great for everyone else. As if changing my life now to what it was somehow will make me better. I don't know if my life would be even better if I had not gone to prison. We cannot predict that Jody's life would be happier, more fulfilled today if she had not come down with diabetes at 6 years old. I still have desires to live without financial struggles and to obtain material wealth, specifically a house of our own. But these desires are more out of the fear of being destitute and homeless, conditions that no one would knowingly seek out nor want to have. When you feel responsible for the care of your loved ones, like Jody. Yet we live in an existence where those with power, prominence, wealth, influence manipulate those pursuing better for themselves into believing that exclusivity and othering is more beneficial to us as a species than inclusivity and us coming together. We do that here tonight in Sangha, the third jewel. We sit in community together. And yes, I still desire to be free and to be treated fairly. Because emancipation from institution does not make freedom and fairness. So when we have to live in this world of suffering due to the powerful elitists who determine how we choose to live this life we have been born into, sadly, we all may have come to know someone who has been inflicted with Alzheimer's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. My baby sister, Adrian, I thought about as I was writing this, died at the age of 14 when I was a senior in high school. She was a quadriplegic. She was mentally disabled and unable to talk. My baby sister and the people who deal with debilitating diseases that don't allow them to be present in their own selves, unable to communicate, are themselves seeking freedom without institution and are not treated fairly either. Today, I suffer because I desire to live in a world that no longer describes each other as us and them, and gives a more accurate description of all of us as we. Sangha, community. I thank you all for being here and allowing me to share this with you.
Thank you, Eric.